massive space station hung in the darkness like a giant metal flower. Its 5 arms stretched out from the center, each one bigger than most cities on Earth. This was the Galactic Council Station, and today it buzzed with activity. Ships from across the galaxy had come here to show off their best technology. Ambassador Sarah Chen looked out the window of the small Earth shuttle as it approached the station. She had been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Today humanity would present their technology to the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy for the first time. "Are you nervous, Ambassador?" asked Dr. James Park, the head scientist on their team. Sarah smiled. "No, just excited. Today changes everything." Their shuttle was tiny compared to the other ships docked at the station. The Zeltharian vessels looked like floating crystals that bent light around them. The Hive Collective ships moved like living metal insects. The Etherian craft seemed to be made of pure energy held in a bubble of force. As Sarah's team walked through the station's corridors, aliens stopped to stare. Most had never seen humans before. Some pointed and whispered. Others made sounds that might have been laughter. The main council chamber was enormous. Thousands of beings filled the space, representing dozens of different species. Some floated in the air. Others stood on multiple legs or tentacles. A few looked almost human, but with strange colors or extra eyes. High Chancellor Vex of the Zeltharian Empire called the meeting to order. His crystal body rang like a bell when he spoke. "Welcome, beings of the galaxy, to our technology showcase. Today we share knowledge and celebrate progress." One by one, different species stepped forward to present their achievements. The Zeltharians showed how they could make entire star fleets invisible by bending light. The crowd gasped in amazement. The Vorthon military demonstrated weapons that could destroy planets. Everyone applauded. The Hive Collective revealed robots that could build new robots, creating infinite armies. Then it was humanity's turn. Sarah walked to the center of the chamber. The noise died down, but she could hear whispers in dozens of alien languages. Some beings leaned forward with curiosity. Others sat back, already looking bored. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Sarah began, "humanity brings you our greatest achievement in space technology." She activated a hologram projector. Technical drawings appeared in the air, showing detailed plans for a spacecraft. The design looked simple, even primitive compared to what they had seen today. The hull was made of basic metals. The engines used chemical fuel. The weapons were simple projectile launchers. A low sound filled the chamber. It took Sarah a moment to realize it was laughter. Chancellor Vex's crystal body chimed with amusement. "These are interesting historical documents, Ambassador Chen, but we asked for your most advanced technology." "This is our most advanced technology," Sarah replied calmly. The laughter grew louder. Dr. Kreeth from the Biosynthesis League clicked his mandibles in what Sarah knew was their species' way of showing humor. "My dear primitive friends, our ancestors built ships like this 10,000 years ago." Commander Zephys of the Etherian Order floated closer to examine the plans. Her energy form pulsed with what looked like confusion. "These materials, they are so basic. Where are your quantum processors? Your dimensional drives? Your matter converters?" "We do not use those technologies," Sarah said. Admiral Threeks of the Quantum Federation slammed 4 of his 6 arms on his chair. "This is insulting. We came here expecting to see new innovations, not cave paintings." The chamber erupted in voices. Beings called out in their own languages, but Sarah's translation device made their meaning clear. "Waste of time. Primitive mammals. Why did we invite them?" Dr. Park stepped closer to Sarah. "Maybe we should explain more about how it works?" Sarah shook her head slightly. "Let them think what they want to think." High Chancellor Vex raised one crystal arm for silence. "Ambassador Chen, we appreciate humanity's enthusiasm. But surely you understand that these designs are far too simple for modern space combat? Any child could detect and destroy such a vessel." "Sometimes the old ways work best," Sarah said quietly. This brought fresh waves of laughter. The Zeltharian delegation sang in harmony, their crystal bodies creating beautiful music that somehow managed to sound mocking. The Vorthon representatives growled in their guttural language. Even the peaceful Etherians seemed to shimmer with amusement. Fleet Admiral Corax of the Stellar Alliance stood up. His massive form towered over most other beings in the chamber. "Little human, my people have been sailing between stars since before your world had intelligent life. We have seen every possible ship design. Your plans show nothing new, nothing useful. Nothing that could survive 1 minute against a real space fleet. We have seen weapons that can crack planets, added General Yith from the Crystal Hegemony. We have shields that exist in 7 dimensions at once. We have ships that can travel faster than light itself thinks it moves. What could your species possibly teach us? Sarah looked around the chamber. Many beings were already getting up to leave. Some were talking among themselves, planning dinner or discussing real business. A few still watched her, but with the kind of interest someone might show a performing animal. Our ships have one advantage your technology cannot match, Sarah said. The chamber quieted a little. High Chancellor Vex leaned forward. And what would that be? You cannot see them. The laughter started again, louder than before. Admiral Threeks was shaking so hard with mirth that he fell off his floating platform. Cannot see them? Child, we have sensors that can detect a single atom from 10 light years away. We can see through dimensions, through time itself, through the spaces between reality. There is nothing in this universe we cannot see. Dr. Kreeth buzzed his wings rapidly. Our detection technology can find invisible ships, cloaked ships, phased ships, ships that exist only in mathematical theory. Whatever trick your species thinks it has discovered, we have counters for it. Commander Zephyr's energy form pulsed brighter. The Etherians have searched the cosmos for millions of years. We have seen every form of matter and energy. Nothing can hide from our senses. Sarah smiled. We will see. More beings were leaving now. The Quantum Federation delegation packed up their equipment with obvious disgust. The Crystal Hegemony representatives were already discussing plans for their next meeting. Even some of the more polite species were making excuses to depart. High Chancellor Vex's crystal body dimmed slightly. Ambassador Chen, we thank you for your contribution. Perhaps in a few thousand years, when your species has developed more sophisticated technology, you might return with something more suitable for galactic society. Perhaps, Sarah agreed. As the chamber emptied, Dr. Park moved closer to Sarah. That went well, he said sarcastically. Better than expected, Sarah replied. She touched a small device on her wrist, so quickly that no one noticed. Message sent. Message? Sarah looked out through the chamber's great windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, invisible to every sensor and detection system in the galaxy, the most advanced ship humanity had ever built was receiving her signal. Time to go home, she told her team. Our work here is done. But they laughed at us, Dr. Park protested. They think we're primitives. Good, Sarah said. Let them keep thinking that. For now. As the human delegation left the chamber, none of the remaining aliens paid them any attention. They were already focused on more important things. After all, what could a species that had been in space for only 200 years possibly contribute to civilizations that had ruled the stars since before Earth's sun was born? In 3 days they would find out. 3 days passed quietly on the Galactic Council Station. The technology showcase continued with more demonstrations from different species. The humans had been mostly forgotten after their embarrassing presentation. Most aliens assumed they had gone home in shame. Ambassador Sarah Chen spent those 3 days in meetings with various species representatives. She asked many questions about their defense systems, their sensor networks, and their military capabilities. The aliens answered freely, thinking the primitive humans posed no threat. On the morning of the 4th day, everything changed. The station's alarm systems activated at dawn. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Emergency announcements echoed in dozens of languages. Long-range sensors had detected something approaching the Kepler system. It was a fleet, a very large fleet. High Chancellor Vex called an emergency session of the Council. As beings hurried into the chamber, the main viewing screen showed what their sensors had found. Over 200 ships were heading toward the station. They moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon arrays. Vorthon War Fleet, whispered Commander Zephys. Her energy form flickered with fear. By the void, that is Admiral Kextar's personal armada. The Vorthons were one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. Their ships could phase between normal space and other dimensions, making them nearly impossible to hit. Their weapons could tear holes in reality itself. No one had invited them to the technology showcase. Admiral Kextar's face appeared on the main screen. He was a massive creature, over 3 meters tall with gray skin like stone and eyes that glowed red. Scars covered his face from 1,000 battles. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. "Beings of the Galactic Council," he growled. "I am Admiral Kextar of the Vorthan Empire. You have exactly 24 hours to surrender your territories to Vorthan rule. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why resistance is pointless." The transmission ended. The chamber erupted in panic. Fleet Admiral Korak stood up, his massive form shaking with rage. "This is an act of war. The Stellar Alliance will not bow to Vorthan threats." "Your alliance is weak," replied General Yith from the Crystal Hegemony. "The Vorthans have destroyed entire star systems. We should consider their offer." Dr. Kreeth's mandibles clicked rapidly with stress. "The Biosynthesis League has no military fleet. We are scientists, not warriors." As the arguing continued, Sarah Chen sat quietly in her section. She watched the display showing the approaching Vorthan fleet. Dr. Park leaned over to whisper in her ear, "Should we contact Earth for help?" "No need," Sarah replied softly. "Help is already here." Before Dr. Park could ask what she meant, the viewing screen changed. Admiral Kextar had decided to demonstrate his fleet's power. The Vorthan ships targeted a large asteroid field near the edge of the system. The weapons fired. Beams of crimson energy lanced out from the warfleet. Where they touched the asteroids, matter simply ceased to exist. Chunks of rock the size of mountains vanished in puffs of vapor. In less than 10 minutes, an entire asteroid field that had existed for billions of years was gone. The council chamber fell silent. Even Admiral Korax's proud posture slumped. The demonstration made it clear that no force in the system could stand against the Vorthans. High Chancellor Vex's crystal body rang with a sad, low tone. "We must discuss our options. All species are invited to present defensive strategies." One by one, the galactic powers explained why they could not fight. The Zeltharians' light-bending technology was meant for exploration, not war. The Etherians were pacifists who had no weapons. The Quantum Federation's ships were fast but lightly armed. The Hive Collective had numbers, but no individual ship could match a Vorthan dreadnought. "What about combined forces?" suggested Commander Zephys. "If all our fleets work together?" Admiral Korax shook his head. "The Vorthans can phase their ships between dimensions. Our weapons cannot hit what we cannot reach. Their technology is simply too advanced." As despair settled over the chamber, Sarah Chen stood up. "The human delegation requests permission to coordinate the defense of this system." The chamber fell silent. Then the laughter started again, but this time it was bitter and desperate rather than mocking. "No offense, Ambassador," said High Chancellor Vex. "But what could your species possibly do? You showed us your ship designs. They are primitive compared to Vorthon technology." "Sometimes primitive works better," Sarah replied. "We request access to your sensor networks and defense platforms." Fleet Admiral Korax turned to stare at her. "You cannot be serious. 200 humans against the most powerful war fleet in the galaxy. We are completely serious." Dr. Kreeth's mandibles clicked with what might have been hysteria. "The human ships would be destroyed before they could fire a single shot. This is suicide." "Maybe," Sarah agreed, "but we are willing to try." "Unless someone else has a better plan?" No one did. General Yith spoke up reluctantly. "If the humans want to throw their lives away, we should let them. It might buy us time to evacuate." High Chancellor Vex considered for a long moment. Finally, his crystal body chimed with resignation. "Very well. The Council grants humanity access to our defensive networks, though I fear you are simply choosing how you wish to die." Sarah smiled. "Thank you. We need 12 hours to prepare." As the Council session ended, beings hurried away to make their own preparations. Most were planning escape routes. Some tried to contact distant allies for help. A few began composing surrender messages. Dr. Park caught up with Sarah in the corridor. "What are you doing?" "We don't have any ships here except our shuttle." "Don't we?" Sarah asked. "Are you going to fight the Vorthans with a shuttle that has no weapons?" Sarah touched the small device on her wrist again. This time Dr. Park saw her press a sequence of buttons. "Message sent," she said quietly. "To who?" Sarah looked out a window at the stars. "To someone who has been waiting a very long time for this moment." That evening, as the Vorthan fleet drew closer, their scouts began probing the outer edges of the system. The alien ships moved like ghosts, phasing in and out of normal space. Their sensors swept across every planet, every moon, every piece of space debris. They found the Council Station's defenses, orbital weapons platforms that looked impressive, but were clearly no match for Vorthon firepower. They found the various alien fleets gathered near the station. Powerful ships, but old designs that posed no real threat. What they did not find was anything that could challenge Admiral Kextar's armada. The Vorthan admiral reviewed the sensor reports in his private chamber aboard the flagship Void Render. His red eyes glowed with satisfaction as he studied the tactical displays. Pathetic, he growled to his second-in-command. These species have grown soft. Their technology is impressive for civilian use, but worthless in battle. What about the humans, Admiral? Asked Commander Vexhai. Intelligence reports say they presented some kind of stealth technology. Admiral Kextar's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. Stealth technology? Against Vorthon sensors? We can detect quantum fluctuations across dimensional barriers. What could these primitives possibly hide from us? He was about to find out. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, completely invisible to every sensor in the Vorthon fleet, humanity's most advanced warship began its final approach. The UHSS Shadowwalker had been waiting in the system for 3 months, watching, learning, and preparing for this exact moment. Captain Marcus Torres sat in his command chair, studying the tactical displays. His crew of 200 volunteers had trained for this mission for over a year. They knew they might not survive the next 24 hours, but they also knew that the entire future of humanity and galactic society depended on what happened next. All stations report ready, Captain, announced his first officer. Torres nodded. Begin the hunt. Far beyond the outer edge of the Kepler system, something moved through the darkness. It had been there for 3 months, completely invisible, watching everything that happened around the Galactic Council station. Now it was time to act. The UHSS Shadowwalker was humanity's greatest secret. While other species had spent thousands of years developing exotic technologies, humans had focused on one simple goal: staying hidden. The ship's hull absorbed every type of energy that hit it. Its engines produced no heat signature. Its communication systems used quantum entanglement that could not be detected or intercepted. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge watching his crew prepare for battle. Every person on this ship had volunteered for a mission they might not survive. They all knew the stakes. If they failed, humanity would remain a joke to the galactic community. If they succeeded, everything would change. Distance to target fleet? Torres asked. 40 million kilometers in closing, Captain, replied Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the navigation station. Still no indication they have detected us. Torres nodded. The Vorthon fleet was the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Their sensors could supposedly detect anything in normal space, hyperspace, or the dimensional folds between realities. Yet they had no idea that a human warship was approaching their formation. Communication from Ambassador Chen, announced Ensign Rodriguez from the communication station. Put it through. Ambassador Chen's voice came through the ship's speakers, using the quantum entanglement link that made their communications completely undetectable. Shadowwalker, you are authorized to begin operations. The galaxy is watching. Understood, Torres replied. Beginning Phase 1. The Shadowwalker had been designed around a simple philosophy. If you cannot be seen, you can choose when and where to fight. The ship carried no exotic energy weapons or dimensional phasing technology. Instead, it used the most basic principle of warfare: kinetic energy. The ship's primary weapons were railguns that fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The projectiles themselves were coated with the same energy-absorbing materials as the ship's hull, making them nearly impossible to detect until impact. No force fields or energy shields in the galaxy were designed to stop simple chunks of metal moving at relativistic speeds. Target analysis complete, reported Commander Lisa Hayes, the tactical officer. The Vorthon fleet is maintaining standard formation. Command ship in the center, escort vessels in a defensive sphere around it. What about their scout ships? Torres asked. 12 ships on patrol, phasing in and out of normal space every 30 seconds. They are following predictable patterns. Torres studied the tactical display. The Vorthon scouts were the fleet's eyes and ears. Their sensors were the most advanced in the galaxy, capable of detecting threats across multiple dimensions. But they had one weakness: they could only scan normal space when they were actually in normal space. Time to intercept first scout ship? 7 minutes, Captain. All hands prepare for combat operations. Remember, we get one chance to do this right. After the first shot, they will know we are here. The Shadow Walker approached the first Vorthon scout ship. The alien vessel was sleek and deadly, covered with sensor arrays and weapon ports. It phased in and out of normal space as it patrolled, following a search pattern that had been refined over thousands of years of warfare. The human ship waited. When the scout phased back into normal space, the Shadow Walker fired a single railgun round. The metal projectile crossed the distance between ships in less than a second. It struck the Vorthon vessel's main sensor array and punched completely through the ship's hull. Alarms blared on the scout ship as it lost most of its detection capability. The crew tried to send a warning to the main fleet, but their communication array had been destroyed in the same strike. The scout began emergency maneuvers, but its crew had no idea what had attacked them or where the threat was located. "Target neutralized," Commander Hayes reported, moving to intercept Scout Ship Number 2. The second Vorthon scout suffered the same fate. A single railgun round destroyed its primary sensors and communications. The crew knew they were under attack, but they could not see their attacker or call for help. By the time the Shadow Walker had disabled 6 scout ships, Admiral Kextar aboard the Void Render began to notice the problem. "Communications, why have we lost contact with the outer patrol?" the Admiral demanded. "Unknown, sir," replied the communications officer. "They are not responding to our signals. Sensors, what do you detect in the outer system?" The sensor officer checked his displays carefully. "Nothing unusual, Admiral. No ships, no energy signatures, no dimensional disturbances. The patrol ships appear to be experiencing technical failures." Admiral Kextar's red eyes narrowed. In 50 years of command, he had never seen 6 ships suffer simultaneous technical failures. "Send a squadron to investigate. Full sensor sweeps of the entire outer system." "Yes, Admiral." 12 Vorthon ships broke formation and headed toward the last known positions of the missing scouts. They flew in a tight formation, their sensors scanning every possible spectrum. Their weapons were charged and ready to fire at the first sign of a threat. They found the disabled scout ships drifting in space, their hulls punctured and their systems dark. But they found no trace of whatever had attacked them. "This is Squadron Leader Vectar to Fleet Command," the lead pilot reported. "The scout ships have been disabled by kinetic impacts. Damage is consistent with high-velocity projectile weapons." Admiral Kextar felt a chill run down his spine. Projectile weapons? In the modern galaxy, such primitive weapons were considered useless against advanced shielding and armor, yet somehow someone had used them to cripple his scouts. "Scan for missile signatures," the Admiral ordered. "Someone fired projectiles at our ships. Find the launch platform." The squadron spent 20 minutes scanning the area around the disabled scouts. They found the entry wounds where the projectiles had struck, but no trace of the weapons that had fired them. No energy signatures, no heat trails, no electromagnetic disturbances. It was as if the projectiles had materialized out of empty space. "Admiral," Squadron Leader Vectar reported, "we cannot locate the source of the attacks. There's nothing here." "Impossible," Admiral Kextar snarled. "Ships do not attack themselves. Find whatever did this." What the Admiral did not know was that the Shadow Walker was less than 10 kilometers away from his search squadron, watching them through passive sensors. The human ship had moved into position while the Vorthons were examining the disabled scouts. Captain Torres watched the alien ships on his tactical display. "They look confused," he observed. "The Vorthons have probably never encountered stealth technology like ours," Commander Hayes replied. "Their sensors are designed to detect advanced threats, energy weapons, exotic matter, dimensional distortions. They are not looking for something as simple as a ship that just is not there." "Signal from Ambassador Chen," Ensign Rodriguez announced. "Put it through." "Shadow Walker, the Vorthon fleet is beginning to move toward the station. Admiral Kextar is getting impatient." Torres checked his chronometer. "We still have 18 hours until his deadline. Time to make him more impatient. Tactical, target the search squadron's communication arrays." "Targets locked, Captain." "Fire." 6 railgun rounds fired simultaneously from the Shadow Walker. Each round struck a different ship in the Vorthon search squadron, destroying their ability to communicate with the main fleet. The aliens found themselves suddenly cut off from their command ship, unable to report what had happened or request assistance. "Now target their main sensor arrays," Torres ordered. 6 more rounds fired. The Vorthon ships lost their ability to see beyond visual range. They were effectively blind and deaf, drifting in space while trying to understand what had attacked them. Should we disable their engines, Captain? Commander Hayes asked. No, let them drift back to the main fleet. I want Admiral Kextar to see what happened to them. The Shadow Walker moved away from the disabled squadron, heading toward its next target. The Vorthan main fleet was still 20 hours away from the Council Station, but Torres planned to use every minute of that time. Next target, he asked. 3 more scout ships on the far side of their formation, Hayes replied. Then let's go hunting. Admiral Kextar watched his tactical display with growing anger and confusion. First, he had lost 6 scout ships to unknown attackers. Now his search squadron had gone silent. His fleet was being systematically picked apart by an enemy he could not detect, identify, or fight back against. All ships, maximum alert, he ordered. Unknown hostiles in the system. Begin full-spectrum sensor sweeps. I want every cubic meter of space examined. The Vorthon fleet activated every sensor system they possessed. Energy cascaded across multiple dimensions as the most advanced detection technology in the galaxy searched for threats. They scanned normal space, hyperspace, subspace, and 7 different dimensional folds. They found nothing. This is impossible, Admiral Kextar growled. Something is attacking our ships, find it. But the Shadow Walker remained invisible, moving through the darkness like a ghost. 12 hours remained until Admiral Kextar's deadline. On the Galactic Council Station, panic was spreading through every corridor. Most species were preparing to evacuate or surrender. The few that wanted to fight had no idea how to battle an enemy they could not touch. In the main council chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the assembled representatives. Many chairs were empty. Their occupants had already fled the system. Those who remained looked at her with a mixture of desperate hope and complete disbelief. Ambassador Chen, High Chancellor Vex said, his crystal body ringing with stress. You promised you could coordinate our defense, but we have received no reports of human ships engaging the Vorthon fleet. The operation is proceeding as planned, Sarah replied calmly. Fleet Admiral Corax slammed his massive fists on his chair. What operation? The Vorthons are still approaching. Their fleet is intact. In 12 hours, they will be in weapons range of this station. Actually, Sarah checked a small device on her wrist. Admiral Kextar has lost 18 ships to our attacks. His fleet is no longer intact. The chamber erupted in voices. Beings called out in dozens of languages, all expressing the same thing: confusion and disbelief. Dr. Kreeth's mandibles clicked rapidly. Impossible. Our sensors show the entire Vorthon fleet is still functional. No ships have been destroyed? They have not been destroyed, Sarah agreed. They have been disabled. There is a difference. Commander Zephas's energy form flickered with confusion. Disabled how? We detect no human ships anywhere in the system. What are you using to attack the Vorthons? Sarah smiled. Something they cannot see. Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The main viewing screen activated, showing Admiral Kextar's face. But something was different about the Vorthon Admiral. His red eyes blazed with fury and deep scratches marked his gray skin where he had clawed at himself in frustration. Beings of the Galactic Council, he snarled. I grow tired of these games. Some coward is attacking my ships with stealth technology. Face me like warriors or I will begin bombarding your station early. The transmission ended. The chamber fell silent. High Chancellor Vex turned to Sarah. He knows about the attacks. How is that possible if his ships cannot detect your vessels? Because 18 disabled ships drifting back to his fleet is hard to ignore, Sarah replied. Admiral Kextar may not know who is attacking him, but he knows someone is. Then your stealth advantage is lost, Admiral Corax said grimly. He will change his tactics. Good, Sarah said. Angry enemies make mistakes. Far from the station, the Shadow Walker continued its hunt. Captain Torres studied the tactical display showing the Vorthon fleet. Admiral Kextar had pulled his remaining ships into a tight defensive formation, but that actually made Torres's job easier. With all the enemy vessels clustered together, he could attack multiple targets without moving far. Status report, Torres ordered. Commander Hayes consulted her displays. 18 Vorthon ships disabled. All scout vessels neutralized. Their early warning network is completely blind. Admiral Kextar has recalled all patrol ships to the main formation. Excellent. Now he is fighting blind and scared. What about their flagship? The Void Render is in the center of their formation, protected by 70 remaining escort vessels. Its armor is heavier than the other ships. Our railguns might not penetrate it easily, Torres nodded. The Vorthan flagship was the size of a small city, covered with weapons and defenses that could level planets. But like all ships in the galaxy, it had been designed to fight other advanced vessels with energy weapons and exotic technology. Its designers had never considered defending against simple metal projectiles fired by an enemy they could not detect. Signal from the station. Ensign Rodriguez announced. Put it through. Ambassador Chen's voice came through the quantum communication link. Shadow Walker, Admiral Kextar is threatening to begin early bombardment of the station.
Can you prevent this?
Affirmative, Torres replied. We are moving to intercept. Be careful, Captain. The entire galaxy is watching what happens here. Torres smiled grimly. Then let's give them a show they will never forget. The Shadow Walker began moving toward the Vorthan fleet. The human ship approached slowly, using passive sensors to avoid detection. As it drew closer, the crew could see the enemy formation in detail. The Vorthan ships were arranged in concentric spheres around their flagship. The outer ships served as scouts and early warning systems. The middle ring contained heavy cruisers and destroyers. At the center, the massive void render bristled with enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. Range to outer perimeter? Torres asked. 50,000 kilometers, Lieutenant Kim reported from navigation. Target the outer ring's communication arrays, Torres ordered. I want to cut off their ability to coordinate. Targets locked. Fire. 20 railgun rounds launched simultaneously from the Shadow Walker. Each round was aimed at a different ship in the Vorthan formation. The metal projectiles crossed the distance in seconds, striking communication arrays and sensor clusters with surgical precision. The effect was immediate. 20 Vorthan ships suddenly found themselves unable to communicate with their fleet command. Their crews tried frantically to re-establish contact, but their equipment had been destroyed by impacts they never saw coming. Admiral Kextar is responding, Commander Hayes reported. On the tactical display, they could see the Vorthan fleet beginning to move. Ships broke formation, spreading out to make targeting more difficult. But the movement was uncoordinated because so many vessels could no longer receive orders from the flagship. They are trying to scatter, Torres observed. Perfect. Divided enemies are weak enemies. Target the ships moving away from the main formation. The Shadow Walker began picking off isolated Vorthan vessels one by one. Each ship that tried to break away from the fleet found its engines disabled by precisely aimed railgun rounds. Soon the space around the main formation was littered with drifting hulks. Admiral Kexitar watched his fleet being systematically destroyed from his command center aboard the Void Render. His tactical display showed ship after ship going dark, but his sensors could not detect whatever was attacking them. It was like fighting ghosts. Status report, he roared at his crew. 47 ships disabled, Admiral. The tactical officer reported with a trembling voice. Communications with most of the fleet have been lost. We cannot coordinate defensive maneuvers, and what about sensors? Can we detect the enemy vessels? No, Admiral. Whatever is attacking us remains completely invisible to all our detection systems. Admiral Kextar's scarred face twisted with rage. In 50 years of conquest, he had never encountered an enemy he could not see or fight. The most advanced sensor technology in the galaxy was useless against these phantoms. Signal all remaining ships, he ordered. Begin random firing patterns. If we cannot see our enemies, we will fill space with weapons fire until we hit them. The surviving Vorthan ships opened fire in all directions. Energy beams and missile volleys filled the space around their formation. For several minutes, the darkness blazed with enough firepower to level continents, but the Shadow Walker was not where they were shooting. Captain Torres watched the display as the Vorthans wasted their ammunition on empty space. They are panicking, he observed. Time to end this. Captain, Commander Hayes said quietly. Admiral Kextar is changing course toward the station. He is accelerating his attack schedule. Torres checked the chronometer. 8 hours remained until the original deadline. But the Vorthan flagship was now moving at maximum speed toward the Council station. At this rate, it would arrive in less than 2 hours. He is planning to bombard the station early, Torres realized. Force us to reveal ourselves by threatening innocent lives. Classic military tactic, Hayes agreed. Attack what the enemy cannot allow you to destroy. Torres made his decision. Signal Ambassador Chen. Tell her we are moving to final phase. All ships should prepare for full revelation. Sir? It is time to drop our cloak and show the galaxy what humanity can do. The Shadow Walker changed course, heading directly for the Vorthan flagship. For 3 months, the human ship had remained invisible, watching and waiting. Now it was time to step out of the shadows and face the enemy in open battle. As the ship accelerated toward its target, Captain Torres addressed his crew over the internal communication system. All hands prepare for combat revelation. In 10 minutes, every alien in this system will know we exist. Some of them will never forget what they see today. Others will not survive to remember it. Either way, humanity announces itself to the galaxy right now. The hunt was about to become a battle. The Vorthan flagship Void Render raced through space toward the Galactic Council Station. Admiral Kextar had lost patience with the invisible enemy that was destroying his fleet. If he could not find his attackers, he would force them to reveal themselves by threatening what they were trying to protect. On the Council Station, beings watched in terror as the massive warship approached. The Void Render was over 5 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that could crack planets. It would reach the station in less than 90 minutes. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the main observation deck, watching the approaching ship through the great windows. Dr. Park moved beside her, his face pale with fear. "They are coming to destroy us," he said quietly. "No," Sarah replied. "They are coming to learn a lesson." High Chancellor Vex approached them, his crystal body ringing with panic. "Ambassador Chen, your mysterious ships must act now. The Vorthans will be in weapons range soon." Sarah checked the device on her wrist. "They are acting. Watch the screens." Every display in the observation deck showed the same view, the massive Vorthan flagship approaching through space, surrounded by the few escort ships it had left. The alien beings watching held their breath, waiting for something to happen. Then it did. A ship appeared directly between the Void Render and the station. It materialized out of empty space like magic, suddenly existing where sensors had detected nothing moments before. The ship was sleek and dark, smaller than the Vorthan flagship but clearly built for war. Gasps echoed through the observation deck. Beings pointed and spoke in dozens of languages, all expressing the same shock. A human ship had appeared from nowhere. "Impossible," breathed Commander Zephys. "That vessel was not there a second ago." Dr. Kreeth's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Our sensors showed empty space. How can a ship just appear?" Fleet Admiral Korax stared at the display in amazement. "That is the human stealth technology. They actually made their ship invisible." On his flagship, Admiral Kextar finally saw his tormentor. His red eyes blazed as he studied the human vessel on his tactical display. It was not impressive by Vorthan standards. No exotic hull materials, no dimensional phasing drives, no quantum weapon arrays. Just a simple ship that had somehow avoided detection by the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. "So," he snarled, "the primitives finally show themselves. Communications, open a channel to that vessel." "Channel open, Admiral." "Human ship, this is Admiral Kextar of the Vorthan Empire. You have destroyed my scouts and disabled my fleet with cowardly stealth attacks. Face me in honest battle, or watch as I destroy every living thing on that station." The response came immediately from the human ship. "This is Captain Marcus Torres of the UHSS Shadow Walker. We accept your challenge." Admiral Kextar smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "You are brave, I will give you that. But bravery will not save you from Vorthan firepower. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel. Destroy it!" The remaining Vorthan ships opened fire. Energy beams that could melt mountains lanced out toward the Shadow Walker. Missiles that could level cities streaked through space. The combined firepower was enough to destroy anything in the galaxy. The Shadow Walker simply vanished. One moment it was there, absorbing the attention of every sensor and weapon in the Vorthan fleet. The next moment it was gone, completely invisible again. The Vorthan weapons passed harmlessly through empty space. But the human attacks did not stop. Railgun rounds began striking Vorthan ships from directions that should have been empty. The aliens tried to track the projectiles back to their source, but their sensors found nothing. The Shadow Walker was firing from point-blank range while remaining completely undetectable. "Where is it?" Admiral Kextar roared. "Find that ship." "We cannot detect it, Admiral," his sensor officer replied. "It exists one moment and disappears the next." "Impossible. Nothing can hide from Vorthan sensors, but something could." The Shadow Walker appeared behind one of the escort ships, fired a spread of railgun rounds that crippled its engines, then vanished again before the other ships could target it. It reappeared on the opposite side of the formation, disabled another vessel, and disappeared once more. The psychological effect was devastating. The Vorthan crews had never fought an enemy they could not see. Their advanced technology was useless against an opponent that simply was not there when they looked for it. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported with panic in his voice, "we have lost visual contact with the human ship again. It could be anywhere." "Then fire everywhere," Kextar screamed.
"Fill space with weapons fire."
The Vorthans began firing wildly in all directions, trying to hit an enemy they could not track. The space around their formation blazed with energy as they wasted ammunition on empty vacuum. The Shadow Walker reappeared directly above the void render, so close that the flagship's hull filled the viewing screens. Before the massive ship could react, the human vessel fired a concentrated barrage at the flagship's weapon arrays. Metal projectiles moving at near light speed punched through armor that had withstood planetary bombardments. Weapon systems that had destroyed star systems went dark one by one. The mighty void render found itself being systematically disarmed by an enemy the size of one of its minor gun turrets. Then the Shadow Walker vanished again. Admiral Kextar stared at his damage reports in disbelief. His flagship, the most powerful warship in Vorthon history, was being picked apart by invisible attackers using primitive kinetic weapons. Half his gun arrays were offline. His shield generators were damaged. His sensor clusters had been destroyed. "How?" he whispered. "How is this possible?" Captain Torres answered from the darkness. The Shadow Walker's voice came through the communication system, but the ship itself remained invisible. "You spent thousands of years developing ways to hide from each other," Torres said calmly. "Dimensional phasing, quantum cloaking, exotic matter manipulation. You made your sensors so advanced that they cannot see something as simple as a ship that just is not there." The Shadow Walker appeared again, this time beside one of the escort vessels. Railgun rounds destroyed the ship's engines and weapons before it could react. Then the human ship disappeared once more. "Your technology looks for complex threats," Torres continued, his voice coming from empty space. "Energy signatures, gravitational distortions, quantum fluctuations. You never thought to look for something that produces none of those things." Admiral Kextar tried to track the voice, but his sensors could not locate its source. "This is impossible. Our scanners can detect a single atom from light years away. Your scanners can detect a single atom that wants to be detected," Torres replied. "They cannot see an atom that has been designed to absorb every form of energy you send at it." The Shadow Walker appeared directly in front of the Void Render's main bridge. Through the viewports, Admiral Kextar could see the human ship clearly. It looked so ordinary, so primitive compared to Vorthan technology, yet it was winning. "You want to know our secret?" Torres asked. "While you were building bigger weapons and faster engines, we learned how to disappear. While you were creating sensors that could see across dimensions, we made hulls that absorb everything you send at them. You evolved beyond simple stealth. We perfected it." The human ship fired again. This time the railgun rounds struck the Void Render's main engines. The massive flagship shuddered as its power systems went offline. Without engine power, the ship began to drift helplessly through space. "Surrender now," Torres said, "and your crews will be allowed to leave this system safely." Admiral Kextar looked around his command center. Half his ships were drifting hulks. His flagship was crippled and powerless. His remaining vessels were scattered and demoralized, firing randomly at an enemy they could not see. For the first time in 50 years of conquest, Admiral Kextar felt something he had not experienced since he was young: fear. I surrender," he said quietly. "Louder," Torres demanded. "I surrender," Kextar roared.
"Vorthan fleet, ceasefire!"
"We surrender to the humans!" The Shadow Walker appeared one final time, hovering directly above the disabled flagship. On every screen throughout the system, beings watched as a single human ship held the most powerful war fleet in the galaxy at its mercy. On the council station, the observation deck was completely silent. Every alien present stared at the displays in shock. The species that they had mocked 3 days ago had just defeated the Vorthons using technology so simple that it seemed impossible. High Chancellor Vex was the first to speak. "How long has your ship been in our system?" he asked Sarah. Sarah smiled.
3 months.
"We attended every technology demonstration, every council session, every social gathering. The Shadow Walker was present for all of it. The implications hit them like a physical blow. While they had been showing off their most advanced secrets, the humans had been watching everything, learning their capabilities, studying their weaknesses. They had been observed for months by an enemy they never knew existed. "What else do you have hidden out there?" Commander Zephys asked quietly. Sarah's smile grew wider. "Would you like to find out?" Before anyone could answer, Captain Torres's voice echoed through the council chamber via the communication system.